Hi, this is Beru, and I'm going to walk you through healing the heroic Magmaw encounter from a Resto Druid perspective. As we get ready to engage the encounter, you'll see here that I'm pre-hotting our Magmaw tank. We use a prot paladin to tank Magmaw, a prot warrior to handle the bone constructs, and a frost death knight that's going to kite the lava parasites for us. We just took our first magma spit, and there'll be another one here in just a second. Usually about the second magma spit, I will pop over into Tree of Life to get the raid topped up and to start throwing out life blooms in preparation for our first lava spew. Here comes the lava spew. It does a fairly significant amount of damage, so it is pretty important that you get the raid topped up both before and after the lava spew comes out. Anybody that sits really low risks being killed by either the lava spew if they're not topped up, or by the magma spit if they don't get topped up quickly after the lava spew. You'll notice here that I have switched my life bloom from our paladin to our death knight kiter, and that is because we don't assign a specific healer to heal the death knight. We sort of just ask that all of our raid healers manage that, and so I do my part by keeping a life bloom and a rejuve active on him, and then tossing him any other spot heals he may need. As we go through the encounter, you'll notice that I'm assigned to heal the raid. I do this by tossing out rejuice pretty freely and wild growthing anytime there's enough damage that the encounter calls for it and the heals aren't wasted. I will also use Swift Mend, but because we spread out for this encounter, Swift Mend isn't really well utilized on our ranged players, so I try to make sure if I Swift Mend it's underneath the melee so it will have the greatest effect on a larger number of people for the encounter. We've just gone into our first head phase here, and I'm going to help heal the construct tank during this head phase. If our shaman is healing, he likes to lightning bolt the head because his tolerant currents gives him basically a full mana bar back while he's throwing lightning bolts at Magmaw. I'm actually pretty jealous of this because I tend to be tight on mana by the end of the fight. But I'm a druid and not a shaman, so there you have it. We are back on the constructs now, so I'm just trying to get the raid topped off in preparation for this lava spew here. And then after the lava spew, I am just working to make sure that the raid stays, at a sufficient health that a magma spit isn't going to kill them. We 8 heal this encounter. I'm sure it can be done with 7, but we found it safer with 8. And as long as your DPS can meet the DPS threshold, 8 healers really does take a lot of strain off of the other healers for the encounter. We put a Holy Paladin and a Resto Druid on the Magmaw tank. They work really well together, and their healing spells are pretty dynamic and play off each other very well also. We put a Resto Shaman usually on the Construct tank. He wasn't here the night that I captured this video, so we have a Holy Paladin doing that tonight. And then we have 5 healers that are on the raid. We have 2 Disc Priests, a Holy Priest, a Resto Druid, and a Resto Shaman. Now, our Disc Priests we give a kind of special assignment to. We split the ranged and the healers and between the 2 of them, and they power word shield the raid before the lava spew, and we found that those power word shields were pretty integral in helping mitigate a lot of damage, which when we were learning the encounter meant a lot of survivability. So it's a strategy that we have stuck with and has worked well for us. After the lava spew comes out, I work on healing the raid. Our Holy Priest will, do what he does with his hacks holy powers. And you'll see chain heals there go out from our Resto Shaman along with some healing rain to try to get everybody topped up. Our Disc Priests also use a fair amount of Prayer of Healing in between getting the raid bubbled after the lava spew hits, just to help get them topped back off. You can see here we're taking another lava spew, so I have wild growth and I'm just, moving about the raid, making sure that everybody's topped up sufficiently so that they don't die. We're going to go into another head phase here. Just as a side note, doesn't really have to do with healing, but we found it's really efficient to have your people who jump up on the head communicate once they're both on the head so that they can spike at the same time and not have to juggle around with Magmaw not getting spiked efficiently, because he does continue to damage the tank and the raid during that time until his head gets spiked down. While you're in the head phase, it's a really optimal time to use a concentration potion, because I fill in sometimes on the warrior tank while our shaman does Telluric Currents. I usually just call out that I'm going to concentrate so that he knows I'm not watching his tank and will have to suffer through not getting a full mana bar that particular head phase. Another thing that is important to note here is the construct spawns. Even if I'm a good bit away from the constructs, I find that I tend to pull a fair amount of threat on the constructs. So if a construct spawns anywhere near me, I will basically run almost halfway across the room just to avoid getting munched by them. It's happened to me a few times that I have been, pretty far away from them, but not as far away from them as maybe was healthy, because they do tend to book for me, and I've got no, threat reduction or, bubble or anything to be able to prevent them from eating my face. We're about to go into another head phase here, so our warrior's picking up the construct. Our raid's pretty good at getting the constructs down in a timely fashion, so we are able to spend most of our head phases DPSing. We're actually about to finish the fight out here, so our warrior has pulled that bone construct away from the raid because he's just going to off-tank it out there and not really worry about it. You see here that I'm trying to dodge this moving fire as we go into the last phase, while at the same time making sure that I'm spread out from other members of my raid, and I get myself boxed in here, which could potentially be fatal for me. You see that it took my life down to about half health, and I had to get myself topped up really quickly. I go ahead and trank as we go into this last phase to make sure that the raid's topped up, because Nefarian's going to start shooting these shadow bolts at the raid. And I basically just continue tossing out rejuves, wild growths, and swift mending to keep people topped off. I try to focus on people who drop lower, just because they're going to need a little more healing than, a chain heal or a circle of healing is gonna manage. All in all, it's a pretty fun fight, a very healing intensive fight, and I hope you found this guide helpful.